class. Today I will be talking about how to build a gaming PC. The first step is identifying your needs. You need to identify what types of games you'll be playing and how many games you will get for storage purposes. Identify whether you have the money to and want to run these games either at the bare minimum, average, or above average. Knowing the amount of money you can spend is very important, and to know how much you can set aside for the different parts. The 10 components to a PC, starting with the CPU. The CPU is the part of the computer that performs the tasks the operator requests it to do through the computer program. One example of a CPU is the Ryzen 5 2600 40 gigahertz. This CPU can run pretty much anything you want and is only $125. You can find this and the rest of the parts that I will be mentioning at newegg.com. Motherboard and RAM. The motherboard is one of the most important parts of a computer. It connects all the different parts to each other and allows the computer to run smoothly. This is an example of a motherboard you can get, which is $50. The RAM of a computer is pretty much short-term memory. A computer cannot run without it, and it allows the computer to run much quicker. One example of RAM you could get is this, and it is $75. Long-term storage and power supply. Your SSD or solid-state drive is where you can hold more data, so it is where most of your games and bigger things will be downloaded. As an SSD you can get is this one, and this one is $60. This one is only 500 gigabytes though, and if you plan on getting a lot of games, you should probably get a terabyte one. The power supply is pretty self-explanatory. It is plugged into the wall, plugged into your power source, runs through the motherboard, and then powers your entire computer. This is a power supply you could get that would run pretty much all of the parts that you would ever need. At $45, it's a pretty good deal. Case and cooling system. The case of a computer holds all of the parts together, and cooling system keeps the parts from overheating. There are two types of cooling system, one being just fans, and the other liquid cooling, which is where cold water is funneled through a series of tubes to cool down otherwise hard to reach spots. And this is done silently compared to fans, which are normally fairly loud. Liquid cooling normally means it's much more expensive and is harder to install than fans. One case you could get that comes with pre-installed fans is this one right here, and is $68, and it's a pretty cool looking case. Graphics card and monitor. The graphics card is what controls the output to the display screen. It is what puts all of the games onto the screen and allows you to run your games smoother and better. This is a pretty expensive graphics card, but it can run pretty much every game you want, and it is the GeForce GTX 1660. It's $220, but it's a really nice graphics card. The monitor is another pretty expensive thing. It is what displays what is being sent through the graphics card so that you can see what you're doing with the computer. One monitor you could get is the Acer HA230. It's a pretty good monitor for only $100. Operating system and accessories. The operating system supports the computer's basic functions and manages all of the other parts. The accessories are the mouse, keyboard, and your headphones and mic, which you need if you're going to game, especially with others. The best and most common operating system is Windows 10, which is $110. A keyboard and mouse you could get for cheap is the Roswell Fusion C40 gaming keyboard and mouse combo, which is $40. The headset I use is the Corsair headset, which is pretty good, and it's only $50. Next step is putting your PC together. The first thing you will do is you will need your motherboard and your CPU. You'll need to remove your CPU from its packaging carefully, holding it only by the edges that it is very susceptible to damage. Once you have it out of place and gently its spot located on your motherboard, and then lock it in place. Installing RAM. All you have to do for RAM is to find its slot on the motherboard and then put them in their spots. Mounting the power supply. The next thing you need to do is to mount your power supply in the case. Each case usually has a designated spot for a power supply. You just need to orient it in the best way possible to increase airflow. This means trying to mount it where a fan blows out of a vent. You will need a small screwdriver for this. Mounting your motherboard. Next, you need to mount your motherboard on the back side of the case. It should fit into those port spots on the back of the case and might even come with a metal covering that goes over these ports. Again, you will need a small screwdriver. Installing your graphics card. Locate the PCLE x16 slot using your manual that came with your motherboard. Depending on your case, you may need to open a slot in the back where your graphics card lines up after being put in the motherboard. Secure it to your case with screws. Installing storage. You should have multiple storage bays on your computer, usually located in the front of the case. Use one of them to put your SSD card in and then connect to your motherboard in its appropriate spot. Installing your operator system. Now that everything is put together, you can put the case back together and plug in your keyboard, mouse, and monitor. Once you do that, you need to grab your operating system, which you should have on the flash drive, and install it on your computer. Once you do that, you should be good to go. Now you've built your own PC and have fun.